Good morning. Thank you for joining us this morning. My name is Heather Abbott. I'm a licensed spiritual practitioner here at the Triangle Center for Take Two. Triangle Center for Spiritual Living. Sorry. Oh, it's a beautiful morning. Thank you for joining us. Reverend Dusty's talk today is Love Thy Neighbor, something that's much needed in this country, in this world, to love thy neighbor as thyself, to first love ourselves and then to practice that with everyone that we come in contact with, especially those that are closest to us, like our neighbors and our family. I've got a couple quotes today, and then we will sink into the still moment with some meditation music, and we'll spend about 15 minutes in meditation. And then we'll have a little bit of a break, and then we'll come back for service. Ernest Holmes writes in the Science of Mind textbook, "Without love, nothing can be accomplished. With love, all things are possible. And as we love, our prayers are answered, and the gift of heaven is made." And Leviticus 19:18, "Thou shalt not avenge, nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people, but thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself." Now, as the meditation music begins, just close your outer eyes and sink within, grounding yourself in your seat, feet planted on the floor, and enjoy this moment with spirit. yourselves back into your bodies, back into your rooms. Wiggle your fingers and toes. Thank you for joining us this morning for our meditation to set the container for the space for the service to unfold. We will see you in about 10 minutes for our Sunday celebration service. Thank you. Namaste.
excited, loud crowd today. Thank you all so very much for being here, either here at 4 Points by Sheridan or for inviting us into your homes today. We're very grateful that you have done so. Thank you so very much. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Dusty Rippelmeyer, and I have the privilege and the honor of being this community's spiritual director. We are part of a larger organization called CSL, and at CSL we believe that there is one power and presence, one creative energy that created everything that we can see and everything that we cannot see. And that includes each and every single one of us. So we are all connected one to the other by that golden thread of God's stuff that weaves itself throughout all of life. We believe that we were created in the image and likeness of God, and because God is creative, then we too are creative, and in fact, we have been creating the experiences of our lives throughout our entire life, whether we are aware of it or not. Consciously or unconsciously, we have created our experiences through our thoughts and our beliefs and our feelings and our actions. So, you know, that kind of sounds like it might be a big, huge responsibility and like, oh no, I didn't create this experience. But in fact, it's actually kind of the good news to me, because if I don't like the experience I'm having right now, then I can change it. Change your thinking, change your thoughts is more than just a bumper sticker. It is actually a principle, a law that we can tap into and use to create a life that we actually do love to live. And so we come together on Sundays and Wednesdays really to support each other as we do so. And so once again, I'm very grateful that all of you are here and that all of you are out there. Thank you all so very much. And speaking of thank you to the lovely Heather Abbott, one of our licensed spiritual practitioners, for her beautiful meditation that expanded the container that our service will unfold within. So thank you very much, Heather. And please join me as we welcome her back up to the pulpit.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate that. Good morning. Good morning. The theme for the year 2023 is Living Out Loud. Our theme for the month of September is Love Out Loud. Reverend Dusty's talk title today is Love Thy Neighbor. I am now going to read this community's purpose statement. This is our reason for being here. Our purpose is to inspire, educate, and empower individuals to experience themselves as unique and individualized expressions of God, the love intelligence that governs the universe. We are committed to not merely a theoretical understanding of our oneness and unity with God, but to consciously practice this truth in our everyday lives. Through celebration, service, study, and fellowship, we are committed to the transformation of our personal lives and to being a powerful and beneficial presence on the planet. With the energy of unconditional love, simply, we are here for God. Now, I invite you to close your outer eyes and turn within, opening your heart and mind, and allow these healing sounds of the crystal bowls to simply wash over you. your attention back into your bodies, back into the space where you are. Now, the Triangle Center for Spiritual Living honors the diversity and threads of truth that run through all spiritual paths, as represented by this ceremony. Please welcome Martin and Amy, who will be assisting us this morning. Thank you both. Christianity is the path of Christ consciousness, love, and forgiveness. Buddhism is the path of compassion and understanding. Judaism is the ethical path of living by sacred law. Baha'i is the path of unity and peace. Islam is the path of submission to the will of God, the highest calling. Confucianism is the path of deliberate tradition. Taoism is the natural way, the path of ultimate reality. Native American practice and shamanic traditions are the paths of primal spirituality. Shintoism is the path of tribal ancestry. Hinduism is the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. Science of mind and spirit is the path of the divine principle of love and law. And the heart represents the one love that resides at the center of all people and all beings everywhere, with no exceptions. May peace prevail on earth through the followers of all paths. And so it is. Thank you. And now I invite you to once again close your outer eyes and turn within as I speak a word of blessing on today's service. Recognizing in this now divine moment the power back of all of creation. I call this power God, and it goes by many names. And whatever name that you call it, it is the one power back of all. I know that it is love. I know that it is peace. I know that it is joy, infinite wisdom. There is no place or space that it is not. It is everywhere, all of the time. I know that that golden thread runs through all of creation, connecting us all to the one, as we are all one with each other. I know that is the truth of spirit, as I know that is the truth of myself. And I know that as the truth of each of us, that we are all one with the divine. We are here on earth having this human experience, and yet we are spiritual beings. We are here to show God a good time. Allow Spirit to live life through us, to experience this life with 5 senses. I speak a word of blessing on today's service, blessing Reverend Dusty as she comes forward with her message today, and knowing that the wisdom that she received as she worked on this talk was from the Spirit itself, that all of those that are listening with open minds and open hearts will receive something that allows us to learn a little, to grasp this concept of loving others a little better. I speak a word of blessing on Ava as she handles the AV duties today. A word of blessing on Miles and Letha as they share their beautiful music with us once again. And a word of blessing on our amazing volunteers, Amy and Martin, for their service to this community and for this service today. And I speak a word of blessing on our community, Triangle Center for Spiritual Living, knowing that it is a beacon of light in the darkness that can feel so overpowering sometimes. But knowing that this community is a light in so many lives, and it is each of those lives, each of those people that are a part of this community that make it what it is. And I bless each one of those people, each one of you, that give of your time and your talent and your treasure to make this community what it is. For all of those reasons, I am so grateful, and I ask you to anchor this with me by saying, "And so it is." The reading for today is from Reverend Ernest Holmes. He says, "Love is complete unity with life, and we cannot enter into this state unless we are in unity with all that lives, for all life is one. To love God alone is not enough, for this would exclude our fellow man. To love our fellow man is not sufficient, for this would be too limited a concept of God. When we realize that God and man are one and not two, we shall love both. We shall love man as an expression of God and God as the life principle in all." And now, join me in welcoming, bringing them to the stage, Miles and Letha.
Thank you. We anchor on promises with expectations high, justify our own defenses and swallow our own lies. You can build a righteous wall that you hide behind, but turn away and it will fall in a quiet mind, a quiet mind. We're quick to sacrifice the peace just to prove we're right, and we gather our expertise, preparing for the fight. You can build a righteous wall that will leave you blind, but turn away and it will fall in a quiet mind, a quiet mind. Wisdom is waiting just beneath the noise. When will you listen to that little voice? So we hold on to cynical views, keep the past alive, hurl judgments right on cue, create the great divide. You can build a righteous wall, treat it as your shrine, but turn away and it will fall in a quiet mind, a quiet mind. You can build a righteous wall, treat it as your shrine, but turn away and it will fall in a quiet mind, a quiet mind, a quiet mind, a quiet
Absolutely beautiful, Miles and Letha. And the perfect song to be sung before this. It's kind of like the before the message and after the message idea. I love that wisdom right there, just below the noise. Just below the noise. So in Science of Mind, right, we say that God is synonymous with love. And because God is all that there is, then, of course, love is all that there is. Now, however, in a world that's often filled with war or with violence or with division, the challenge is sometimes really great to be able to find that presence of God or to find that presence of love just below the noise or just behind the darkness. Now, this month we are being invited to lean into love. And not only to lean into it, but to actually express love or to be love out loud. Love out loud. The invitation is to look for love in every place that we go, in every person that we encounter, in every worldly situation, and most importantly, within ourselves, because if God is everywhere, then God is in each and every single one of those spaces and places. And the underlying truth is that if we want to see more love in the world, then we, each and every single one of us, has to be willing to live as an example of that love in action. Now, for Eckhart Tolle, the bottom line about love is this. He says, love is a state of being. Your love is not outside, it is deep within you. You can never lose it, and it can never leave you. It is not dependent on some other body or some external form. It is the stillness of your presence. You can feel your own formless and timeless reality as the unmanifested life that animates your physical form. You can then feel the same life deep within every other human and every other creature. You look beyond the veil of form and separation. This is the realization of oneness. This is love. So this is the realization of the I am presence, right? The I am presence, that spark of the divine that is within each and every single one of us, and aligning ourselves with it. So not only realizing it, but aligning ourselves with it, and then recognizing that it is not only in ourselves, but in each and every sentient being on the planet. Now, while the Old Testament is filled with many shoulds and should nots, in the New Testament, Jesus was not really big on ultimatums, not really big on shoulds and should nots. In fact, he spoke basically in stories and in parables in which the people that were listening heard the message at the level of their listening. Now, but on this matter of love, Jesus was adamant. He was adamant about it. And when asked, which is the first commandment of all, Jesus answered, the first commandment is the Lord our God is one Lord. And thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind, and with all thy strength. This is the first commandment. And the second is like it, namely this: thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself, that you love one another even as I have loved you. Now, following the issue of that command, Jesus told us that he would help us. He said in John 14, verse 14, if ye ask anything in my name, I will do it. If ye ask anything in my name, I will do that. Now, metaphysically, the name of anything is its nature. So what I hear in this commandment is that if we are struggling to love, I'm sure everybody can think about a moment or two in our lives when we were struggling to love. But if we're in that place where we're struggling to love, we can call forth the Christ presence within us. We can lean into that spark of the divine that is the very presence of love itself to assist us, to go before us, to lead the way, and to make the way smooth. Getting quiet and aligning with the Christ presence within us will call forth the energy of love. In this moment, I can't do it myself, so I can lean into that presence that is the very presence of love itself. And in doing so, we are calling forth the energy of love. As spiritual beings having a human incarnation, love God with all thy heart and love thy neighbor are not always easy to stay so grounded in. Now we find that we're often caught up in worldly concerns or negative emotions or judgmental thoughts and dualistic beliefs, and that when we are caught up in all of that, there's not enough room for the real love of God to be experienced, or for the real love of God to be expressed through and as us. It's too noisy. It's too much. Our thoughts are elsewhere. We're not focused and attentive on what we should be focused on. We often have interactions in our lives that have very little to do with love. We often have interactions that are very little to do with seeing the face of God in the other person that we meet. We meet them not from our inner divine core, which is the essence of love, but from fear or lack or limitation or ignorance or worry or doubt or judgment. However, our real self, that core of our being, that spark of the divine within, is always, always inclined toward love. Always. It is its nature. We have to be able to look at ourselves and others with the ability to separate the person from their actions, to separate the person from their behavior, to distinguish between the person and their mental conditioning or that programming that they have learned as they were growing up. The unconditional love, God's love, does not tie our hands. It's not about indifference or simply going along with anything that anybody says or does. We can strongly dislike or reject or even actively oppose what someone is saying or doing and still know who they are at their very core and still love them unconditionally. It's as simple as that. It might not always be easy, but it is as simple as that. Separate the person from their actions. Separate the person from their behavior and see the internal truth of them. The truth is that it's really not about them at all, but our ability to keep our hearts open to real love, to real unconditional love. Whenever we shut down, we block the flow. Whenever we shut down, we become unavailable to love. When we love, we are wide open. And when we are wide open, then love flows in and out with ease and with grace. That which we are, we receive. That which we sow, so shall we reap. If we want to see more unconditional love in the world, then we have to love unconditionally. It's the only way that it will work. The invitation is to love at all times and in all situations, just as God loves. The bottom line is that Jesus taught the law of love. Who and what we are at our very core is love. And it is only in learning to be and to express that kind of love that the world and all of its inhabitants will become whole, will recognize their wholeness. It's only when we love that we truly express who we truly are. In order to truly love one another, we must open the door within ourselves and allow it to flow from within us, that core of our being, out into others. Just as Jesus did. Marianne Williamson says, love is what we were born with. Fear is what we have learned here. The spiritual journey is the relinquishment or the unlearning of fear and the acceptance of love back into our hearts. Love is the essential existential fact. It is our ultimate reality and our purpose on earth. To be consciously aware of it, to experience love in ourselves and others, is the meaning of life. Now, another commandment that Jesus spoke about around this idea of love was that we should love our enemies. Whew, another really great idea in theory, but also another really hard one to be able to put into practice. Now, in a public domain sermon that I listened to, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King talks at length about this Bible verse from Matthew. The verse says, "Ye have heard that it has been said, Thou shalt love thy neighbor and hate thine enemy. But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good unto them that hate you, and pray for them that despitefully use you, that ye may be the children of your Father which is in heaven." That we may more emulate God and God's nature. Reverend King spoke about this verse because it was part of his basic philosophical and theological orientation. He believed that while many thought it was an extremely difficult command, that it was absolutely necessary for the survival of civilization. Absolutely necessary for the survival of civilization, that in fact it is only love that will save the world. Only love that will heal the world. He said, now let me hasten to say that Jesus was very serious when he gave this command. He wasn't playing. He realized that it's hard to love your enemies. He realized that it's difficult to love those persons who seek to defeat you, those persons who say evil things about you. He realized that it was painfully hard, pressingly hard, but he wasn't playing. He wasn't playing. He meant every word of it. Reverend King believed that we have a responsibility to discover the meaning of those words and to discover how we can live out this commandment and why we should live out this commandment. And so in this sermon, he really looked at that question, how do we go about loving our enemies? And why should we even think about doing that? So the first thing that he said was that in order to love our enemies, we must begin by looking and analyzing ourselves. That inner work, right? Judging is such a temptation. It's such a temptation for each and every single one of us in our on the human side of life. We often have a problem with the way that people are behaving, wanting them to behave in some other way, and more likely than not, wanting them to behave in the way that we want them to behave. Now, when I find myself in that place, I have to remind myself that one of the basic concepts of the science of mind, philosophy, and way of life is that we ourselves have a role in our experiences, right? We've created our experiences. And so the question in analyzing ourselves is, how is this experience a mirror for how I am being in the world? Now, oftentimes, we might look directly at what that person is doing and say, well, I don't do that. I would never do that. But in all probability, there is something that we are doing that's similar. Something that we are doing, and perhaps not to other people, but to ourselves. Where have I not been respecting myself? Where have I not allowing myself full self-expression? Where am I going back on the things that I told myself I was going to do and then don't do? Where have I not shown up for myself when I really needed to? Those things that really push our buttons about other people, we are sometimes doing to ourselves. And that is the inner work, to really be able to look at an experience that we are having and recognize what it is as a mirror for how we are being in our own lives. This is a behavior, right? Our behavior is a behavior that we can do something about. And to do something about it, not from a place of judgment, but from a space of a new awareness. And that new awareness could actually be something that could change our lives for forever. If that was a possibility, wouldn't you want to just take a moment to even look at it? This is what Jesus meant when he said, how is it that you can see the mote in your brother's eye and not see the beam in your own eye? Did you ever wonder about that sentence? Now, and then think about it like this. Have you ever had an experience where someone disliked you? And maybe they even treated you really poorly, but you didn't have any clue as to why that was happening. So oftentimes, people treat us based on something that emanates from within us. And we might not even be aware of that. But it's based on something that is emanating from within us, and that often that's experienced by that other person as something that pushes their buttons, or something that sounds and feels vaguely like, nails on a chalkboard. Now, granted, the other person, right, plays a role in this scenario because it's their life. However, the invitation is to look and see what it is in there, what is in there for us. To do that inner work, to look at our shadow side and to not be afraid to shine a light upon it. To know that whatever is being mirrored back to us in a really uncomfortable way, right? We're experiencing this as, ooh, this isn't so much fun, is an opportunity for a healing. It's an opportunity to love and to accept some aspect of ourselves that we have been denying or rejecting. Picking up the rug and sliding it underneath there. Oh, no, that's not me. Right? It's an opportunity to maybe take a look at that and to be able to change our lives for forever. A few moments of taking a look. Now, hand in hand with this idea is the capacity to forgive. It's impossible to love our enemies without prior necessity of forgiveness. Practicing radical forgiveness for ourselves and each other allows for a deep experience of love. Forgiving does not mean forgetting. We're not expected to maintain relationships with people that we don't want in our lives. Forgiveness is about letting go of resentment and trusting that the challenging experience was a divine appointment. Trusting that that divine experience has allowed for growth, spiritual growth, and evolution for everyone involved. I love Reverend Dr. Michael Beckwith's statement when he says, "Thank you for giving me that experience." Kind of like thanking them for that experience and forgiving all in the same thing. Thank you for giving me that experience. Now, the second thing that Dr. King believed an individual must do in order to love one's enemies is to discover the element of good within them. To discover the element of good within them. The invitation is that every time we begin to judge, or every time we begin to find fault with, or every time we even begin to perhaps hate some other person, to realize that there is some good in there. Remember, the spark of the divine is there. There is some good in there. And to turn our attention to that. When we can look at another person and see the face of God within them, then we can see them in a new light. We can know the truth that their behavior is born out of ignorance, or fear, or worry, or pride, or prejudice, or misunderstanding, or a belief in separation. We can know that if they would have known better, they would have done better. John Davison in the Gospel of Jesus says, "Those who find God within discover their real self is God. They see that they are God's children and that it is the essence of their being. They also come to see God everywhere and in everyone. Then, whenever they look and wherever they go, they find nothing but God and God's love. This truly is loving thy neighbor as thyself." relationships and situations can be an opportunity for spiritual practice and for spiritual growth and evolution. Any moment that feels like a crisis represents an opportunity to let go of judgment, to let go of righteousness, to not deny what is, and to consciously choose love over fear. Instead of fighting the darkness, the invitation is for each of us to bring the light and pure love to the situation, thereby transforming it. Not just putting a Band-Aid on it or sweeping it under the rug, but literally transforming it. Now, this is what, in that sermon, Dr. Martin Luther King said about how to love your enemies. So now let's look at his whys. Now, the first why we should love our enemies is that hate only intensifies the experience of the existence of hate on the planet. Remember, it's just one life, one big mind. And so whatever we're putting into it is experienced everywhere. So he says, if I hit you and you hit me, and I hit you back and you hit me back, and on and on and on, you see, that goes on infinitum. It just never ends. Somewhere, somebody must have a little sense, and that is the strongest person. The strongest person is the person who can cut off the chain of hate. Love is truly the strongest power that there is. Powerful enough to diffuse even the most hate-filled situation or relationship that you could possibly think of. But somebody has to make the first move. Somebody has to choose love over righteousness. Somebody has to choose love over hate. Somebody has to choose love over being right. Miles and Letha sang about it. Somebody has to be the one to cut off the chain and infuse the relationship, the situation, the structure of the universe with love in order for it to be able to work its magic. The second reason that he talks about why we should love our enemies is because hate distorts the personality of the hater. Hate is injurious to the one who is being hated, but it's even more injurious to the one who is doing the hating. The more we hate, the more we develop guilt feelings. And then we begin to subconsciously repress or suppress those feelings within us. And what they do then is to just stack up within our subconsciousness. And all of that has its way with us unconsciously. And that affects, right, who we are in the world. Hate is a cancer that gnaws away at the very center of our being, at the very center of our existence, at the very center of who we are out in the world. Think about it. If we're holding even one person out of our heart, then we are actually holding everybody out, because there's only one of us here. And if you think about it, that one of us here is God. You're holding God out of your heart if you hold even one person. So that means no love in and no love out. And I don't know, I for one, that's not the way I want to live my life, right? The third way that we can love our enemy is that when the opportunity, about why we should, is that the opportunity presents itself to defeat our enemy, then the time to do it is not then. It's not then. We must not take that opportunity. We have to turn away from it. To take the opportunity in whatever way it presents itself and to consciously choose not to do it. To consciously lead with love instead. Right? To be the bigger person, to be the stronger person, to be the one with some sense. This is agape love. The love of one for many. That's the way that God loves. It's a deep sense of goodwill for all people. For all people. Remember, we are all one. We're all one human family, united by that God stuff. When we begin to love at this level, we begin to love others not because they're likable, but because God loves them. Because that's what God does. And when we love at this level, we refuse to do anything that defeats them. Because love is at the center of our being. It is our nature. It's who we've come here to be. And so we consciously choose to be that. To truly create a world that works for everyone, we must make space in our lives for all of our neighbors. And all of our neighbors means everyone. Our loved ones, our friends, our family, our co-workers, and everyone in our community who look, think, speak, and act differently than we do. It includes everybody. When we surround ourselves with people of all ages, races, sexual orientations, political affiliations, spiritual beliefs, cultural backgrounds, and life experiences, we expand our understanding of love. Living by example and loving each other, regardless of our differences, is a beautiful way to bring peace to a world. I believe that the problem facing humanity today is a spiritual one, and it can only be solved spiritually. We have a choice in the matter, and I believe that we need to choose something other than what we have been choosing again and again and again for eons and eons and eons. We need to choose love. And when we do this, both individually and collectively, the world that we create will be a world that is very different from the one that we are living in now. It will be based on pure love, on unconditional love, on agape love, on God's love, and I am telling you that it will work for everyone. It will work for everyone. There is a power for good in the world. That power is love, and we can use it. So let's all begin, perhaps today or perhaps more intensely, to love each and every single one of our neighbors. And so it is. So it is. So I just invite us to turn within for a moment of prayer, to allow ourselves to turn our attention away from that world of form and the noise of it, the darkness of it, and to allow our attention and our attention and intention to go to the center of our being, to that space and place of God. That Christ consciousness within us, that unconditional love that is the very essence of who we are and who we have come here to be. I know that I am one with it, that I can never be separate from it. It truly is who I am. And just as I know that this is my truth, I know that it is absolutely the truth of each and every person here at 4 Points today, each and every person listening to us from home, each and every person that will listen to this talk at some other point in time. All sentient beings on the planet, we are all divine emanations of the One, ambassadors of its presence, ambassadors of its unconditional love. It is from that place of unity that I speak these words about and for each and every single one of us today, truly knowing that as spiritual beings having a human incarnation, that despite the challenges that we may face in really showing up as who we really are, that we can do it, that we can make those choices, that we have the ability to turn away from fear, to turn away from lack, to turn away from limitation, to turn away from ignorance, to turn away from violence and war and division, and turn our attention to our unity, to our oneness, to the love that is at the core of our being, of each and every single person, all of our neighbors with absolutely no exception. And to do so with ease and grace, allowing the love that we are to pour forth from us, open and willing to allow that to happen, choosing love over anything else, knowing that truly it is the highest and best choice for everyone concerned, and that in the end, means more to us. It is more significant than anything else. It is more powerful than anything else, smoothing out the rough spots, healing everything in its purview. I know that we can create a world that works for everyone when we come from that space and place, when we align ourselves with the truth of who we are, when we see that face of God in every single person we meet, in every situation that we encounter, because it's there. It can't be not there. God is everywhere in its fullness and in its wholeness, so it has to be in that person. It has to be in that situation. And I claim for each of us that we can live our lives from that place, from that perspective, from that view, and that when we do so, everything changes. I'm so grateful to know this truth and to speak these words. So grateful for the power of prayer, knowing that these words are loosed into a law that only ever says yes, that my words are spoken and clothed in form. And so I speak them and I release them with love and gratitude and full expectation of their manifestation, letting go and letting God be God. I invite all of us to anchor this prayer for ourselves, for each other, for our community, and for the world, simply by saying, and so it is, and so it is. Amen. Thank you all so very much. It is now time for our conscious giving. The Triangle Center for Spiritual Living is sustained by the giving of our time, talent, and treasure. This is the time every week when we offer financial support to assist this community to continue to be a beacon of light and love for ourselves and others. Together we affirm the truth that today's offering lifts this spiritual community, prospers the one giving, and adds to the energy of sufficiency on the planet. There are several ways that you can give. Visit our website at www.trianglecsl.org or text the word give using the following number, 919-230-8445, or you can mail your gift to our office at PO Box 4062, Cary, North Carolina, 27519. So I now invite everyone to place your hand on your heart with your gift and an affirmation for yourself or for our community, and we will say our offering affirmation in a call and response. I live in an abundant universe that blesses and prospers my life. I give with gratitude, knowing that God is my source. And so it is. And so it is. Amen. Now, as the baskets are being passed, please welcome back to the stage the amazing Miles and Letha Costin.
Thank you. So this is, I need a little microphone. This is a song about collective consciousness.
Check 1, 2.
And we'll be here in a minute. There we go. And if you have not ever looked up or learned about the story about the 100th monkey, that's something that I encourage you to do, but not right now after we sing the song. Okay? Ready? Here we go. Heard a tale not long ago. A monkey learned to wash a sweet potato. It took a little time, but he finally
and song. Thank you both. Whew, I knew about the 100th monkey. I didn't hear about the 100th chicken. Whew. If you would like prayer, please go to our website at trianglecsl.org, and on the home page there is a button in the upper right hand corner. Click on that button and fill in the request form. We will get that prayer and send it out to all of the ministers and practitioners. If you would like to dedicate a flower dedication to someone for anything, please send an email to info@trianglecsl.org or to Reverend Dusty at dustyrippelmeyer@yahoo.com. We appreciate you providing us with beautiful flowers for the pulpit. Now, in the comfort of your own home, please stand for our September affirmations. This is a call and response, and please repeat it with meaning. I know that enjoying the experience of being loved and loving others starts with loving myself.
I know that enjoying the experience of being loved and loving others starts with loving myself.
I inspire love in the world by living as an example of what love looks like.
I inspire love in the world by living as an example of what love looks like.
By doing so, I encourage others to love themselves and to embrace their own expression of love.
By doing so, I encourage others to love themselves and to embrace their own expression of love.
Today, I choose to remain conscious and aware of the presence of love.
Today, I choose to remain conscious and aware of the presence of love.
I see every being as a divine expression of that presence.
I see every being as a divine expression of that presence.
As I live consciously from the understanding that love is all there is, I experience a life of love greater than I have ever known.
As I live consciously from the understanding that love is all there is, I experience a life of love greater than I have ever known.
Choosing to live by example and to love unconditionally, I consciously serve the creation of a world that works for everyone.
Choosing to live by example and to love unconditionally, I consciously serve the creation of a world that works for everyone.
And so it is. Whew. Those are powerful. You may be seated. Please turn within once again, closing your outer eyes, leaving those inner eyes fully open to the presence and power back of all of creation. Love itself. Beautiful, beautiful love that supports us, that breathes life into us, that allows us to live life to its fullest. I know that love is God, and I know that we are each bound to that love. We are each created from that love. We are each supported and held fully by that love. I know that as the truth of me, as I know that as the truth of each sentient being, that we are all one with love. I am so grateful for this service today, so grateful for this chance to gather with our community, to practice all that we learn, to practice this loving thy neighbor, to know that love conquers all. There is no problem, there is no circumstance that is too big for God, too big for love. I'm so grateful for this service today, for this opportunity to gather and to listen to Reverend Dusty speak onto that power of love. Grateful for this community that blesses me personally so much, and I know that it blesses each person that comes and gives of their selves, gives of the love that they have to one another. For all of these reasons, I'm grateful, and for so much more. And I ask you to anchor this prayer with me by saying, and so it is.
Thank you all so very much for being here with us today. I thank our volunteers, Amy and Martin, and the lovely Ava on AV, and our musicians, Miles and Letha Costin, the ever beautiful Heather, and each and every single one of you for tuning in. Have a wonderful week. I love you all.